Everyone thought that he was a lonely, bitchless loser, but one day trained Kun sends him to another world where he becomes the hero and creates a harem of beautiful girls. Even though his childhood friend promised that she would marry him when they grow up, that bitch went ahead and left him. So he became a heartbroken loser now, and instead of going to gym, he began learning martial arts. One day, while returning home, trained Kun decides to rid the world of some insults and Mog's bust Kun, completely causing everyone inside to die. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself in a different world in the body of a poor orphan named Rio and remembers his previous life as a mere dream. Suddenly, the door to his place opens and a bunch of thugs waltz in with a sack. They mock Rio for still being alive even though it looked like he would die from fever. They sit down to eat but tell Rio to go outside and wash himself because he stinks more than their underwear that haven't been washed for months. Rio knows that he stands at the very bottom of the pecking order, so he obeys and goes outside. As he washes himself, the memories of his past and present life conflict in his head, giving him a severe headache. He remembers that he used to live with his mother in this life, but one day she got killed, and he has been an orphan since then. Suddenly, a group of girls approach him and ask him if he has seen a girl with purple hair around here. Rio denies seeing anything like that, and then one of the girls with silver hair walks up to him and introduces herself as Celia. As opposed to her colleagues, she treats Rio kindly and asks him more about the slums. He tells her that if they wear such fancy clothes in the slums, they are going to get packed and shipped to Epstein Island. Celia heeds his warning and decides to do a magic radar check to see if the purple-haired girl is nearby. However, all she finds is that Rio is flowing with a substantial amount of magic energy, which is very odd for a low-born boy. She can't feel any other traces of energy and decides to go into the slums to investigate more. She thanks Rio for the information he gave them with a pouch of money. Rio is surprised by the amount and quickly wears the pouch around his neck and goes back into his house. Just as he steps in, an unseen assailant attacks him, but luckily, the money saves Rio's life quite literally. Rio looks around and finds that all the men who lived with him have been sent to meet their maker, and the masked assassin is going to send him along for the ride as well. Rio gets scared and backs off in the corner, but before the man could attack him again, an ethereal woman appears in front of him and tells him to use his magic. As she grants him the senses to use his magic and vanishes, the assassin attacks Rio again. However, he fuses his martial arts training from his previous life with magic and punches the attacker back. The attacker uses his own magic abilities to buff himself, but Rio dodges him and kicks him in the face before breaking his arm. The assassin's ego gets hurt at this, so he makes a desperate charge at Rio, only to get humbled again by the boy. After Rio has knocked out the guy, he notices some movement in the sack that the guys brought in earlier. He has a bad feeling about it, and when he opens it, he finds a purple-haired girl. The girl is scared and confused and tells Rio that if he takes her back to her father, she will make sure that he is given a huge reward. She then immediately passes out after seeing the dead men around her, and Rio decides to escort her to safety. He carries her outside only to be found out by finding Celia and the others. One girl slaps Rio, accusing him of lying to them when he had actually kidnapped her sister. Rio tries to explain that he saved the girl, but this dumbo doesn't want to hear anything. The older woman, Vanessa, intervenes and tells Rio that he needs to come to the palace because the girl with him is the princess herself, and they can't believe what he says until the princess wakes up and gives her testimony. She promises to treat him well, but instead he is handed over to an asshole knight, who decides to torture Rio so that he admits that he was involved in the princess's kidnapping. Rio tells him that he didn't do anything wrong, but this little dick energy Insel keeps beating him to cover up for the fact that the princess got kidnapped because of his incompetence. On the other hand, the princess comes to her senses soon, and she tells Vanessa and Celia that Rio indeed rescued her. They rush to get him out of prison and find that he has been beaten senseless by Captain Little Dick Energy. They tell the jerk to let the boy down immediately because he saved the princess's life, and Rio loses consciousness just as he hits the ground. He wakes up the next day in a comfy bed with Celia by his side. She apologizes to him for what happened in the prison and explains that the king wants to thank him for saving the life of his daughter, so he should get ready to meet him. Rio decides not to sue the royal family for the treatment he received in prison, and instead asks Celia to teach him the manners to present himself before the king. And the next day, he gracefully enters the royal court. The king is grateful that Rio saved his daughter, and as a reward, he allows him to join the royal academy even though he is a street urchin. Celia leads him to his classroom because even though she is just 12 years old, she has Tony Stark-level intelligence and has already become a teacher at the academy. Rio tells her that he doesn't even know how to read or write, and she tells him to do his best and come to her chamber later for some private lessons. In the class, Rio faces some muffled bullying because even though the nasty noble brats don't like a slum born studying amongst them, they can't be too open about it since the king personally gave him permission. Later, Rio goes to Celia's chamber that is more disorganized than my own and helps her clean it before they can get down to their private lesson. As soon as Rio learns what the letters and numbers mean, he quickly shows off his skills in math, leaving Celia amazed. She asks him how he became so good at math when he can't even read, and Rio thinks about his past life where he was a college student. but he says that his mom taught this to him. Celia doesn't pursue the sensitive topic any further, and they have some tea before Ryo asks for some picture books and crayons so he can learn the alphabet. After that, the students go to the physical training class where the stern instructor notices that Ryo is more skilled than he lets on. He asks Ryo to attack him in any way he can, and Ryo immediately gets into the Japanese swordsmanship stance that he had learned in his previous life. Everyone is shocked to see his stance. That is something they have never seen before, and they make fun of him for that. However, as Ryo uses the knowledge and skills from his past life, he impresses the instructor, who tells him that he is going to be a great knight in the future, but Ryo replies that he has no interest in knighthood. This shocks everyone else because not only did Ryo catch the instructor's eye, but he also refused his offer. Later, Ryo gets busy studying because he wants to do well in the mid-sem tests that are going to take place soon. After he gives the exams and leaves the classroom, he sees everyone with their friends, and that suddenly reminds him of his crush in the past life. Ryo's heart aches from those memories, and he tries convincing himself that he is not Haru, so he shouldn't be upset about his heartbreak. A few days later, the result of the exam is declared, and everyone is in disbelief because Ryo got the first position along with Princess Christina, who is the older sister of Princess he saved. While everyone keeps their doubts and disbelief to themselves, one jealous prick called Alphonse accuses Ryo of cheating. He declares that he is going to file a complaint about him, but Christina and her friend tell him to stop acting like an idiot because he has no proof that Ryo cheated. They have accepted the shocking result, and then Celia also comes there to attest that Ryo scored the highest marks because of his hard work. Later, Celia calls him to her chamber to congratulate him, but she is also worried that the high-ranking nobles will continue bullying him because he is better than them. She says that the same happened to her, but she had friends to support her. Ryo replies that he has her, and Celia turns red from embarrassment. 5 years have passed since he entered the academy, and Ryo has just hit puberty. One day, the swordsmanship instructor picks up some students for the upcoming tournament, and Ryo is among the 3 selected. The jealous bitch Alphonse refuses to accept this decision, but the instructor asks him who asked for his opinion. The day of the fight arrives, and Ryo is paired up against the asshole who tortured him for a crime he never committed, Charles. He was demoted because of that incident, and he blames Ryo for it, so he sees this as a chance to get revenge and fights against Ryo with his full power. However, Ryo calmly parries his attacks, and when he sees the chance, he disarms Charles with one swift attack. Charles is aghast at being humbled in front of the crowd and tells the commander who is refereeing the fight for a rematch, but he tells him to act like a knight and accept his defeat properly. In the end, Charles has no option but to accept his defeat. A few days later, the students go to the forest for a practical assessment of their skills. They have to go through a forest with difficult terrain and weak-level monsters to reach their goal in the shortest time. Ryo is in the group containing Alphonse, his cronies, both the princesses, and some upperclassmen. Alphonse is the unit leader, and his lackey has got the information about the forest from the knights who serve under his family. With that information, Alphonse is confident that they can reach their goal in half a day, and everyone agrees with him. He gives Ryo the job of carrying everyone's bag, saying that this is the best job for a loser who can't even use magic. Ryo accepts the job without arguing, and Princess Flora, the one who saved, feels bad for him. She even tries to help, but Ryo says that he is fine. As the group passes through the forest, a bunch of goblins appear, but Alphonse and his men quickly defeat them. They are proud of their actions and think that Ryo is a loser who was looking in another direction, unaware that he had sensed the presence of a powerful enemy who was the mastermind behind Flora's kidnapping in the past. The group goes through the forest, and their path ends up leading to a cliff. They stop there, and Alphonse is embarrassed in front of everyone. They decide to find another way, but then suddenly, a spear lands right next to the princess. They look around to see orcs who were not supposed to even be in this area. The orcs begin attacking them with spears, and while the students try to hold them back, Alphonse's lackey Stuart gets injured and starts crying like a little bitch. He bumps into Flora, knocking her off the cliff, but luckily Ryo is there to take action in time. He quickly jumps off the cliff himself, grabbing her and throwing her back up with the help of wind magic to safety, whereas he falls off the cliff. While the students above deal with the orcs, Ryo has landed safely below. Even though he cannot use magic like everyone else, he can use it instinctively thanks to the ethereal girl he saw on his first day in this world. He climbs back up, wondering if it will be too suspicious that he survived the fall. He hides in the bushes as he hears Alphonse and Stuart blaming him for Flora's fall. Flora tries to argue, but nobody listens to her and says that Ryo got what he deserved for endangering her life. They decide to head to their goal, and Flora asks if they are just going to leave Ryo to die here. Before that can happen, a giant minotaur suddenly appears out of nowhere and leaps at them. The magicians and the swordsmen try to attack it, but it is too strong to be harmed by their attacks. The minotaur knocks away some of the swordsmen that attacked it, causing everyone else to freak out. Alphonse turns tail and runs, and everyone follows him. However, the kind-hearted Flora runs up to one of her injured upperclassmen and starts healing him. But in doing that, the minotaur attacks her. She is terrified, but luckily, Ryo steps up once again and slashes the monster's arm to save her. He tells her to run away as he engages the monster in combat. The monster is quite a match for him with his overwhelming strength and speed. However, Ryo dodges and blocks every single of its attacks, and as soon as he finds an opening, he lunges in and slashes off the monster's head. Just then, the rest of the classmates come looking for Flora, and Ryo decides to leave quietly. The mysterious man who sent the Minotaur is impressed by his skills and decides to keep an eye out on him. Even after saving the entire party, he knows that he's going to be blamed for putting Flora's life in danger because the noble bastards can't own up to their mistakes. He knows that no one will listen to him, so he decides to abandon his academy life and go to the homeland of his parents. However, before leaving, he goes to see Celia one last time because she was his only friend in the kingdom. She was worried about him as well because she had heard a few details about what happened, but when she learns the truth from Ryo, she is horrified. She knows that even she can't do anything in this matter, and with a heavy heart, she gets ready to bid him goodbye. Ryo promises that he will write to her under a fake name, and one day he will come back to meet her. Ryo runs through the forest for 3 whole days and reaches a town, which has still not received his wanted posters. He thinks that he can stock up on his supplies for the journey here, but suddenly, he feels someone following him. He turns around and finds no one around, so he thinks that it might just be his paranoia. He explores the market, where he is surprised to find pasta being sold on the street. He learns that the governor of this city invented noodles in this world, and not only that, he finds Japanese-style meat buns being sold in another part of the city. This makes Ryo believe that there might be more people like him who have reincarnated in this world. Anyway, he goes to a merchant guild, and a blue-haired girl named Lot welcomes him. She asks him to deposit his hood and sword at the counter because they are not allowed, and gets surprised as she sees Ryo's black hair. She then leads him through the supermarket, where Ryo buys a lot of food supplies for his journey, mostly spaghetti since it is easy to store and prepare. Lot gives him some tea later while talking about how he seems like a refined gentleman. Ryo cheerfully talks with her and then gets the store to send a letter to Celia on his behalf, using the fake name Haru, which was his name in the past life. After he leaves the city, he starts traveling through the forest again, where he spots a young girl lying on the ground. Ryo runs up to her to see if she is fine, but the girl turns out to be an assassin who shoots a poisonous dart at him. Ryo somehow blocks the dart from hitting his head, but the poison starts spreading through his body, making him dizzy. The Beast Girl gets up and declares that she will kill him, but Ryo uses his magic to remove the poison. The Beast Girl is taken aback by this and attacks him with knives, but he easily dodges all her attacks and then counterattacks. The girl quickly climbs up on a tree branch and increases her physical abilities through magic, surprising Ryo because she was already plenty fast. He rushes at her to not give her any chance of attacking him and keeps her under pressure. He manages to lure her close and slams her to the ground. He pins her, and the girl suddenly starts crying and calling for her mom. Seeing no other way to calm her down, Ryo uses his magic to put her to sleep and then removes all her weapons. He is shocked to see a slave collar on her neck and realizes that she is being forced to do someone else's dirty work. He uses his nullifying magic to dispel the collar, while the girl is still unconscious, dreaming about the strange things that happened to her. She was actually the girl on the same bus as Haru that got under the train, and when she opened her eyes in this world, she was a beast girl named Latifa. She was a slave to the pathetic asshole Stuart, who tortured her using the collar. When Latifa wakes up, she is frightened of Ryo, thinking that he will kill her. However, as he shows her the removed slave collar and says that she doesn't have to follow anyone's orders anymore, she starts crying tears of relief. She then explains that she was forced by Stuart's dad to kill Ryo, and he thinks that the girl's story makes sense. He asks her if she still intends to kill him, and Latifa says that she doesn't. Ryo believes her and releases her from the restraints, telling her that she is free to go wherever she wants now. He knows that beastmen and demi-humans are treated as slaves in this kingdom, so he tells the girl that if she heads east, she can find more people like her and live properly. Coincidentally, he is also heading east, so Latifa begins following him. He tries to discourage her, saying that he still doesn't fully trust her, so Latifa pulls out the slave collar and asks him to put it on her so that he can trust her. Ryo is taken aback and asks the girl if she is stupid, and she cries that she doesn't want to be alone. Ryo gives in and accepts her as his sidekick, and they start traveling together. At night, Ryo sets up camp in the mountains and decides to cook some spaghetti, and to his surprise, Latifa identifies it and says that she has eaten it before. Ryo is curious now because it is unlikely for a slave to eat pasta, and Latifa called it spaghetti instead of pasta, which is the term used in this world. Later that night, his suspicions are confirmed when Latifa starts crying in her sleep, saying that she wants to go back home to Tokyo. Ryo realizes that she has also come to this world, just like him, and decides to take care of her. The next morning, Latifa is flustered as she finds that she cloned to Ryo the last night, but she also begins to see similarities between him and Haru. They travel through various terrains for a long time together before arriving in a forest with a gigantic tree in the middle. However, only Ryo can see the tree and Latifa can't. He wonders if the tree is being hidden with some kind of magic and decides to check it out. As they head into the forest, Latifa picks up some unknown scents, so Ryo decides to camp early tonight. As he's trying to comfort Latifa later, the campfire suddenly goes out, and when Ryo goes outside to check what's going on, he finds a huge wolf staring at him. The wolf shines brightly, and then Ryo is temporarily blinded by the light. He doesn't even know what is going on, as he is surrounded by 4 demi-human girls who think that he has come here to harm them. Ryo tries to talk with them, but they don't listen and begin attacking him instead. He uses his magic to cure his vision and tries to explain that he means no harm while defending against the attacks. The leader of the group is ready to talk to him, but 2 of the girls find Latifa inside the tent. They think that Ryo kidnapped her and put her to sleep with his magic, and that makes everyone angry. The winged girl attacks him furiously, giving him no chance to explain that he's a good guy. They tell him that he will be arrested and interrogated till the girl wakes up, and Ryo thinks that if he had a nickel for every time he was accused of being a kidnapper after saving a girl, he would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but is weird that it happened twice. As he keeps defending himself, he suddenly finds his foot getting stuck in a magic spell used by one of the girls, and then he is knocked out by a magic blast. In his dreams, Ryo finds himself floating in a vibrant blue sea, and the ethereal woman is there with him. He asks her who she is, and she cannot remember anything about herself. However, she knows that she belongs to only Ryo, and soon they will be reunited. She hugs him and then vanishes, and then Ryo sees the image of his crush from his previous life. He begins calling out her name in sleep as he is tied to a bed with 2 demi-human girls watching him. As soon as he wakes up, Latifa barges into the door and leaps on him. She hugs him tightly while crying that she was afraid when she didn't find him on waking up. She suddenly gets worried as she sees him shackled, and just then, the girls from yesterday come to the room with an elder. The old lady realizes the situation at a glance and apologizes to Ryo for the way the girls treated him. The girls also fall to their knees to beg for forgiveness, and Ryo says that it is fine since the misunderstanding is resolved now. The old lady then tells him that tomorrow, all the elders will gather to give him a formal apology, and he will have to stay in this room tonight. She orders the girls to free him of his chains and then asks him to rest well as she leaves to prepare for other things. The next day, he is taken to meet the other 2 elders by the old lady. They climb the stairs around a huge tree, which still pales in comparison to the huge one in the distance. Ryo asks the woman about it, and she tells him that it is the world tree. She tells Ryo that a high-level illusion magic is cast on it so that no one can see it without enough knowledge of spirit arts, and he realizes that the unique way of magic he uses is actually called spirit arts. With that, they reach the council room where they meet an old elf and a dwarf. The 3 elders bow their heads in a formal apology, and Ryo says that it was just a misunderstanding. The elders want to repay him for their mistakes and for freeing Latifa as well, but they don't know what a human would like. Ryo just wants them to take Latifa under their care, but since she has grown attached to him, he asks to stay in the village for some time. The elders are more than happy to welcome him and ask if he needs anything else. Ryo asks them to teach him about spirit arts, as well as some common knowledge about the demi-humans, and they gladly agree. Just then, a green-haired spirit appears in the room, and the elders quickly bow down to her. They inform Ryo that this green mommy is Dryas, the spirit of the world tree, who is worshipped like a goddess by everyone in their village. Dryas is quite curious about Ryo as she can sense the presence of a spirit inside him. She asks if he made a contract with any spirit, and Ryo says that he doesn't remember anything like that. Dryas decides to take a better look at him and clasps his face to peer inside his soul. She is astonished as she informs him that there is a human-shaped spirit present inside him. Everyone is shocked, and Ryo asks if it is such a big deal. Dryas explains that only the highest and second highest class spirits can take human form. She herself is a second highest class spirit, but she is treated like a god, and she believes that the spirit sleeping inside Ryo might be one of the 6 ultimate spirits that went missing after the war with the demons many centuries ago. Ryo asks if that is a problem, and Dryas explains that the only thing he loses after making a contract with a spirit of that level is his ability to use magic, and everything else remains the same. However, it changes everything for the villagers who worship spirits. The 3 elders tell Ryo that they will consider him a saint from now on and give him extra special treatment. Ryo accepts it and goes to his new lavish home, where Latifa is eagerly waiting for him. The girls who attacked him are there too, and they tell them that they are going to atone for their sins by living together with him and serving him with everything they have got. Ryo is not comfortable with the idea, but then the old lady arrives there and explains that they wish the girls to learn more about humans, so he should let them stay in his house. Also, she tells him that Latifa should have other people she can look up to, and Ryo decides to let the girls stay with him. At the same time, not far away from the forest, the mysterious man sent the Minotaur after Ryo enters the cave of a fearsome wyvern with a new recruit in his army. He steals the wyvern's egg, telling the new recruit that they will use it to strengthen their army, but his true motive is something else. Meanwhile, Ryo and Latifa go to Dryas so that she can bless them with a kiss and officially welcome them as members of the village. Once that is done, the party begins. The girls cling to Ryo, try and get him drunk and slide into his pants, but he treats them with caution. The girls leave to get more drinks, and then the old lady comes there. They talk about how Latifa has become a part of the village now, and Ryo says that it is going to be difficult to tell her that he is going to leave the village tomorrow. The old lady gives him his blessings, and he takes Latifa out for a walk while the village enjoys the festival. He asks her if she likes living here, and Latifa affirms. After that, Rio tells her that he's going to leave the village soon, and Latifa says that she will go with him. Rio tells her that he can't take her with him because the path ahead is extremely dangerous and unknown. Latifa runs away crying, and Rio is left by himself. At the same time, Dries feels some wyverns enter the barrier placed around the tree. She immediately sets out a team to search for the cause of disturbance with the girls, who find the recruit with the wyvern egg, while the mysterious man is inside the wyvern cave, stealing all their eggs while they go out in search of just one. The girls confront the man, asking who he is and what he is doing in their territory. They are curious about the huge egg too, but instead of answering their questions, he takes the griffin and flies in the direction his master had told him, which is the direction of the village. The girls attack him, but they are not able to bring him down. Instead, the pack of wyverns arrive there and join the conflict. The girls decide to spread out and stop the wyverns from harming the village, but then the mastermind uses a magic artifact to dispose of the recruit as his role is over. He falls from the crane and crashes on the ground near Latifa, who goes to see what's happening. She is horrified to see a dead body and a cracked egg with a baby wyvern lying there in critical condition. Before she can make out what is happening, the black wyvern reaches there and Latifa screams in terror. At the same time, Rio reaches the village where he finds everyone panicking and rushing to their safe house. He doesn't find Latifa there and asks the dwarf elder what is going on. He tells him about the wyvern attack, and then suddenly, Rio hears Latifa's scream. He rushes towards her, while one of the demi-human girls is trying her best to protect Latifa. She summons a wolf spirit and a lion spirit to charge at the wyvern with ice and fire blasts. Thinking that it is weakened enough, she attacks it with her hammer, but gets deflected by the wyvern's wings. She tells Latifa that they can't let the wind reach the village, so they begin to distract it. However, Latifa's path is blocked by a falling tree, and she finds herself unable to dodge the wyvern's fire breath. Thankfully, Rio arrives in time and attacks the wyvern to protect her. He carries her to safety and then charges at the black wyvern. He manages to pummel it with his bare hands, and the wyvern decides to breathe fire at him. Rio cancels the first round with wind magic, but the wyvern charges up the fire breath again. This time, Rio shoots a fireball inside its mouth and then hits its head hard to keep its mouth shut as the fireball explodes inside. With this combo attack, he kills the wyvern who came here just to retrieve its kid, but of course no one gives a shit about that. The rest of the wyverns retreat on seeing their leader killed, and peace returns to the village. The remaining scouts and warriors join up with Rio too, and they return to the village. The next day, Latifa comes to terms with the fact that Rio is going to leave her behind. She tells him that she always knew he would go, but she was afraid that he would never come back. She cries and hugs Rio as he promises that he will come back to her again. He tells her that he is going to the homeland of his parents that he knows nothing about, and in return, Latifa decides to tell him her secret. She tells him about being reincarnated in this world, thinking that he won't believe her, but Rio tells her that he's the same as her. She is shocked to hear this, and Rio says that he didn't tell her the truth earlier because he didn't want to live in the past again. Latifa then promises to become strong while she waits for him here. Soon it is time for Rio to say his goodbyes. The dwarf elder gives him a special sword and a cloak made from the skin of the wyvern he defeated. The elves give him various potions and medicines, while the beast folk give him food and drinks. Rio says that it is too much for him to carry, and then the elf elder gives him a special bracelet that acts as a magical storage device. Rio thanks everyone and promises that he will come running if they ever need his help before speeding towards his goal. After traveling for more than 2 weeks, Rio finally arrives at a village called Yagumo, where his father and mother came from. He walks past the rice fields and sees everyone has black hair like him. He spots 2 girls and asks them if he can meet the leader of this village. One of the girls named Ruri tells him that her grandmother is the head of the village and takes him along, while her friend Seo gets as wet as the rice fields she was working on as she sees Rio. Soon, Rio gets to the house of the old lady, who welcomes him in and then asks his business. Rio tells her that his parents used to live in this area many years ago, and he is trying to find out if he has a family here. As the old lady hears the names of his parents, she immediately tells her granddaughters to go back to the fields because she doesn't want them hearing their conversation. Ruri complains that things were just getting interesting as she heads out with her friend, and after that, the old woman asks Rio to tell her more about his parents. He tells her that his dad died when he was still an infant, and his mom raised him till she was killed by an attacker. Rio says that he had promised to go back to the village with his mother, and the only thing he can do now is give him a proper funeral in their homeland. After hearing this, the old lady breaks some shocking news to Rio. She says that she is his father's mother and his grandmother. As for the funeral, she claims that they held it a long time ago and both of Rio's parents have their graves here. She takes him to the graves on a hillside, and after paying their respects, she explains that Rio's parents had to leave the village for some secret reason, and they made graves for them because they never expected them to come back. She cannot tell Rio the reason right now, but says that if he stays in the village, she might find a good time to tell him all about it. Rio is taken aback, but as he thinks about how the old lady is his grandma, he decides to stay with her. The next day, he wakes up early and helps his grandma and his cousin Ruri prepare breakfast. They need more water for the stew because they are going to have some guests over, and Ruri says that he can take water from the container that they fill using spirit arts. Ryo is surprised to hear that they can use spirit arts too, and he shows off his skill by summoning hot water. Later, Sayo and her older brother Shin join them for breakfast. While Shin is initially a bit wary of Ryo, he's immediately sold as he eats the delicious food he cooked. After that, the old lady tells Shin to take Ryo to the village hunter so that he can help out. Shin asks if a guy who can cook will be of any use in the field, but the old woman tells him that Ryo might be overwhelmingly strong compared to him. Shin leads him to the hunt, where Ryo shows his prowess with bow and arrow, which makes Shin jealous, and he starts to act coldly towards him. After the hunt, Ryo finds himself quite dirty, so he builds a bathhouse for himself but lets everyone use it. While this makes Ruri and Sayo happy, Shin gets even more pissed. Ryo continues to contribute to the village, and after a few months as the crop is harvested, his grandmother asks him if he would act as a guard when they take their crops to the city to be sold, and he accepts the job. Just then, he hears and sees some villagers running to a fight between 3 men from another village in Shin. The leader of the group is the son of the neighboring village's chief, and he looks like a certified molester from the way he ogles Ruri and Sayo. Shin tells him to back off, but the jerk keeps taunting him by saying that his sister looks ripe for harvesting. Shin throws hands only to get stopped and choked by the jerk. Before he can even say, "Harder, daddy," Ryo's grandma comes there and tells the ass to stop. She breaks the fight and tells him to stay in one of the guest houses at the edge of the village while his broken carriage is repaired. However, he is not allowed to leave the guest house without permission. The man agrees and walks away, but the old lady tells everyone to stay on guard because they can't trust him fully. Shin asks her to let Sayo stay with them tonight because he is worried about her safety. Meanwhile, the guy walks past Ryo and tries to kick him for no other reason but because he is an ass. Instead of doing anything to Ryo, he hurts his leg and falls over. Later, the tax inspector comes to the village to check the harvests, and Ryo shows him around. At night, the 3 guys enter Ruri and Sayo's room to harass them, but Ryo had placed a magic stone to detect any intruders, so he quickly gets there to stop him. As he sees the main jerk threatening to punch Ruri, the scenes of his mother's death pop up in his mind and he is consumed by rage. He beats both of the cronies up before the main guy attacks him. He easily throws him through the wall and punches him to the pulp before being stopped by the tax inspector. He heals the beaten man so that he doesn't die and sends word to the city to call soldiers to arrest him. Ruri and Sayo thank Ryo for what he did, but he is unnerved by his actions and his rage that he never knew was still inside him. The next day, the 3 men are held in a cell as the tax inspector prepares to send them to the jail in the capital. Ryo's grandma thanks him and asks him to deliver a letter to his father. Soon, Ryo and others leave the village to deliver their produce to the capital. They travel with the tax inspector for some distance and then part ways to reach the capital of the kingdom here. The capital is straight out of a Japanese historical drama, and while others stay at a guest house, a village hunter takes Ryo and Shin along to explore the city. They eat some ramen, and then Shin thanks Ryo for saving his sister. He says that he wants his sister to eat the delicious ramen as well, but they were in a little bit of a fight lately, so they are not yet on talking terms. So Ryo takes up the task and takes Sayo out for shopping. He buys her a pretty hairpin, and the shopkeeper tells Sayo to make a move on Ryo soon because she can sense that she is going to have a lot of competition. As they walk through the market, they spot a thug trying to kidnap a girl in broad daylight, while his friends hold back her guard. Ryo steps in to save the day, knocking out the thug and catching the girl in one swift motion. The female samurai thanks him for saving her master, and Ryo just hands the girl over to her. He spots some guards coming their way, but he doesn't want any trouble, so he grabs Sayo's hand and runs away before the guards arrive. Later, they reach their quarters, where everyone gives them the looks as they see the brand new hairpin in Sayo's hair. Ryo doesn't want to get involved here as well, so he goes to put the stuff away, when suddenly the tax inspector arrives there with his dad. Ryo goes with them to talk in private, and the old man Guki and his wife tell him that they were once servants of his mother, who actually belonged to the royal family of this country. This is too much for Ryo to take in, and he wonders if the man is telling him the truth. Guki continues the story, telling Ryo about his dad next. His dad was just an ordinary soldier who showed great skill in a war 20 years ago, and to reward him, the king made him a noble. He was assigned to guard Ryo's mother, the princess, and soon they fell in love. At the same time, the war with their neighboring country ended, and the prince who came to negotiate peace immediately fell for Ryo's mother. Together, he sent his men in the dead of the night to kidnap her. While those plans were foiled by Ryo's father, the prince was angry because one of his assistants died. He declared that a truce would be established only if he got to marry the princess and her bodyguard was killed. Everyone was furious at this, and to save his daughter from such a horrible fate, the king arranged for her to escape the city in secret with her lover. Ever since then, they had no contact with them, but when the old man got the letter from Ryo's grandma, he realized that Ryo is their prince. The old man gets emotional as he requests Ryo to come to the palace tomorrow so that he can meet the king and queen, and Ryo gladly agrees. The next day, he goes to visit the king and the queen, who are really happy to see their grandson. They ask him to tell them more about his parents, and Ryo tells them that they are already dead. The old couple already knew this, and they ask Ryo about how they lived and how they died. Ryo tells them that he didn't even get to learn about how his father died, but his mother was killed right in front of him. The old couple is horrified and asks who did it. Ryo tells them that it was a man called Lucius, who was his dad's partner from his adventurer days. He had also helped them in many ways after his passing, so Ryo's mother trusted him. One day, as she went out shopping, Lucius came to see Ryo, who was playing by himself in the house. He kicked him and then fed him poison, right as his mother arrived there. She tried to save Ryo, but Lucius overpowered her and killed her. That was the last thing Ryo saw before he lost consciousness, and when he woke up, he was dumped in the slums. He tells the king and queen about his life in the slums and then his life at the school briefly. They get emotional on hearing it all and then ask Ryo if he hates them. Ryo says that his mother never hated them, and rather, she would be grateful that they allowed her to marry the man she loved. He says that if he has any hatred towards anyone, it is against Lucius, and he swears to kill him with his own hands one day. The king turns out to be a Gandhi fan and says that vengeance is not the answer because it will lead him down the path to the dark side. Despite that, Ryo is adamant about getting revenge for his mom, and the king tells him to fight against the old man Guki, who is the strongest warrior in the kingdom. He believes that Lucius must be a formidable man himself, as he suspects that he was the one who killed Ryo's father. That is why the king wants Ryo to test his skills against the best person he can find to know where he stands. Ryo accepts the challenge and goes outside to spar with Guki, where he runs into the girl he saved earlier, who turns out to be Guki's younger daughter. Anyway, the sparring begins and Ryo charges right at Guki, who dodges his attacks by the smallest of margins. He tells Ryo that he is quite skilled and he has not yet reached his potential. Ryo thanks him and then begins pushing him back with his ruthless strikes. Guki decides to show him his true power and gathers magic around his sword for a special attack. He sends a wind blade towards Ryo, who counters it with his spirit magic, taking the old man by surprise. While he is distracted, Ryo reaches him and points his sword at his neck, winning the mock duel by the referee's decision. Everyone is impressed, and the king tells Ryo that he was thinking of getting him to train under Guki, but doesn't seem necessary. He then asks Ryo if he needs anything from his grandparents, and Ryo says that he would like to tell his cousin Ruri about his bloodline, and they give him the permission. The next day, the group returns to the village, and Ryo goes straight to his parents' grave to tell them that he's going to get revenge for them soon. At night, Ryo and his grandma tell Ruri that he is her cousin, as well as the country's prince. Ruri tells them that April is still too far away for them to be pranking her. But when the old lady reveals the details, she understands that it is the truth. She bows before Ryo since he is the prince, but he tells her to stop being so formal with him. He then tells both of them that he's going to leave the village in a few months because he has an important mission to fulfill. He keeps living with the villagers in the meantime, and as they are planting rice one day, he reveals his plans to Sayo. She is on the brink of crying but somehow hides it from Ryo, but breaks down as soon as she reaches home. When Shin comes there and finds her crying, he is furious, thinking that Ryo hurt her. However, when Sayo tells him that Shin is going to leave the village, he immediately runs to talk to him. He kneels before him, begging him not to leave the village for his sister's sake. Sayo comes there to drag him away, and the old woman doesn't ask any questions about what just happened. Time keeps going by, and Sayo starts training herself in spirit arts and physical fitness. Soon, it is time for the Harvest Festival, and everyone has fun. As Ryo is talking with Kuki's wife, Sayo comes to him and asks if they can talk in private. They go somewhere quiet where she confesses her love for Ryo, but he tells her that he can't return the feeling. Sayo tells him to take her along on his journey because she has been training to be of use to him. She starts crying as she asks him to let her stay close to him, but Ryo apologizes because he doesn't think he can love anyone when he still has his crush from previous life in his heart. The next morning, Ryo decides to leave on his journey before sunrise and finds Sayo waiting to bid him goodbye at the village gate. He then travels to the forest of the demi-humans again, where Latifa is really excited to meet him again. He pays a visit to the elders as well and tells them that he is going to set out on a journey soon again. After that, he goes back to his house, where the girls from earlier start fighting for his attention, but Ryo keeps them at a safe distance. However, when he wakes up the next morning, he finds a naked girl sleeping beside him. He thinks that he is dreaming, but as he feels the jiggle along his arm, he realizes that it is not a dream. He gets up, and the girl suddenly clings to him, making him freak out. The girls rush into his room on hearing his scream, and they are flabbergasted to see him with the pink-haired girl. They freak out, and Ryo tries to explain that even he doesn't know what's going on. Latifa asks him who is the girl he brought to bed before any of them, and Ryo wakes her up and asks who she is. The girl tells him that she is the spirit he formed a contract with, and suddenly, things become clear to Ryo. A little while later, the spirit gets dressed and calls Ryo by the name of Haru, which was his name before he was reincarnated. She informs him that she doesn't even know what her name is or any other information about her past. Ryo remembers her as the ethereal girl who taught him how to use spirit magic when he was young, but she doesn't remember that either. She asks Ryo to give her a name because she exists only for him, but the other girls are curious about why she is calling him Haru. He says that he will explain it later, and then the spirit suddenly decides to communicate telepathically with him. Ryo is surprised, and then the spirit asks him if he wants her to call him Ryo in front of everyone. He tells her that any name is fine and then decides to name her Asia. The other girls advise Rio to meet with Dryas, as she herself is a person-shaped spirit, so she might know more about her. They meet with the elders and Dryas, who are surprised to know that Asia doesn't remember her past. Dryas asks her which elemental magic she performs the best, and surprisingly, she replies that she has mastered all of them. Dryas finds it hard to believe and arranges for a sparring match between Asia and Rio to see how strong Asia is, because she has never heard of a spirit that has mastered all the elements. The sparring session begins, and Rio is shocked to see that Asia knows every single one of his moves. She can match his speed and strength and effectively predict what he is going to do next. When he doesn't get a hit in close combat, he uses spirit arts to attack her from the air, but Asia predicts that and stops him. He attacks her with ice magic next, but she vanishes and then appears behind him, shooting the same ice magic at him. Rio counters it with a fireball, and she copies that too. After that, Rio uses powerful wind magic to whip up a storm, and Asia just apes his shit like usual. However, Dryas stops them from attacking each other with so much power, or they would blow away the village. She admits that Asia is indeed masterful at every element, and the power she showed right now must only be a fraction of her true strength. She decides to teach her all about spirits, and the village elders also welcome her into their village. She takes her under her wing and teaches her all about spirits for the next couple of months, and then the dwarf elder makes a portable house for Rio to carry on his journey as per his request. Rio is delighted and reveals that he was waiting for this house to get completed so that he could set off on his journey again. Latifah is saddened to hear this, but she hides it from Rio. The next day, everyone gathers to say goodbye, and the elders again give their gifts to Rio. They give him a magic crystal that can teleport him to the village from any location, and a magic earring that can change his hair color at will so that he blends in with other people. He thanks them and departs for the city where it all started so that he can meet with Celia again, who is still waiting for him to send another letter after the first one, even though she has gotten engaged to the jerk Charles who tortured Rio in the past. Meanwhile, Rio reaches the capital city and finds that it is more crowded and livelier than usual. He asks one shopkeeper about the occasion, and she only tells him that a wedding between noble houses is going to take place tomorrow. That night, Rio decides to go to the academy to visit Celia's research room, which Asia unlocks for him. He is surprised to find that it is completely empty and fears that she has quit the academy. He uses Asia's help to hypnotize another researcher to tell him the location of Celia, and to Rio's horror, he tells him that Celia is at the castle of Charles and is going to get married to him tomorrow. Rio is asked to learn this, and he asks the researcher more to learn that it is a political marriage that Celia's family didn't really want, but they had no choice given the unstable political condition of the country right now. Rio quickly leaves the academy and rushes towards the castle, but sends Asia and first investigates Celia's location because the security of the palace is really tight. Asia manages to locate Celia. With the help of Asia, he is able to find Celia and immediately rushes to her room. Celia was just thinking about Rio's promise to come see her again that he never fulfilled. She was just about to burn his letter when suddenly the door opens and Rio comes there. She doesn't recognize him at first because of the changed hair color, but as Rio reverts them to normal, she runs to hug him. She is delighted to see him and asks him all sorts of questions, but Rio stops her in the middle and brings up the topic of her wedding. Celia's hands start shaking as she hears that, and she looks extremely sad. Rio asks her if she really agreed to marry Charles, and she tells him that she agreed to it because it was her duty towards her family. Rio tries to learn more about her feelings on the matter because she shouldn't marry someone she won't be happy with. Celia lashes out at him, asking if he will marry her then, and Rio is left speechless. Celia passes it as a joke and then tells Rio that she is glad he came, but it is time that he leaves. She pushes him out of the door and starts crying, but Rio is not satisfied. He decides to find out the reason Celia is marrying Charles, and Asia says she will help her with it. The next day, he waits in the crowd, biding his time for the wedding procession to pass in front of them. Just as the carriage passes in front of them, Rio sends Asia to talk telepathically to Celia, who is moved to tears when she sees Rio in the crowd. She didn't want to see him like this, but as she asks Asia why Rio has come here, she doesn't get any response. She thinks it was just her imagination, and as the carriage stops, she decides to kill her emotions and become a puppet that simply fulfills her role. However, just as she is about to take Charles' hand, the guards start screaming at Rio to stop as he rushes straight towards Celia. Rio charges through the guards and sends them flying. The mages attack him, but he dodges their spells and leaps right over them. The elite guards use magic enchantments to fight him, and Charles orders them to kill the intruder. He boasts about how his elite guards won't lose to anyone, but Rio makes quick work of them and then knocks him out with a punch to his gut. Celia is shocked, but before she can say anything, Rio takes her hostage. Everyone panics and even Celia doesn't understand what is going on. However, he tells her that this is all an act, and he has come here to know her true feelings. He knows that Charles is practically threatening her family for this marriage, and Celia can't deny that. After trying to hide things from Rio, she telepathically tells him that she is not happy with this marriage. Rio says that if she gives him the command, he will take her far away from this marriage, where no one will ever find her. He assures her that no harm will fall on her family or father, and Celia requests that he take her away. So Rio does just that, but not before cursing Charles and saying that he is going to humiliate in front of the entire world by stealing his wife. He runs away with Celia, jumping over the guards and blocking the attack of the mages. Soon, a unit of elite soldiers riding griffins follow him, so he sneaks into an alleyway where he hands over Celia to Aisha and tells her to take her out of the kingdom while he plays decoy. He resurfaces and draws the flying knights to attack him while knocking down any guards who may be pursuing Aisha and Celia. He starts getting overwhelmed by the number of guards when suddenly the strongest swordsman in the kingdom, Alfred, walks in. He decides to take Rio head-on because other soldiers will be useless against him. He draws out his magic sword and starts attacking Rio, who immediately recognizes his strength and decides to play it safe, trying to constantly dodge and block his attacks while pushing him back with punches and kicks as he doesn't want to kill him. Alfred takes it as disrespect and decides to unleash the true power of his magic sword. He uses his strongest attack on Rio, which destroys everything in its path, but there is no trace of Rio left. Alfred thinks that he may have survived and orders his soldiers to keep looking for him, but Rio uses the confusion to run away to Aisha and Celia outside the capital. He thanks Aisha for her help and hugs Celia. But before they could move any further, mysterious light rays explode from the sky and Aisha suddenly screams at Rio to save them. Rio doesn't know what she's talking about, but he runs in the direction to find a bunch of goons kidnapping some girls. He kills every single one of them out of pure rage and rescues the girls. They have devices like the mobile phone from modern-day Japan, which shocks him, and they also speak Japanese. He quickly realizes they have been teleported to this world and asks if there is anyone else besides them. They point towards another wagon, and when Rio bursts through the gate, he's completely dumbfounded to find me, his childhood crush. Come out of it. Seeing me in front of him, Rio suddenly gets reminded of a childhood promise to marry each other when they grow up. To make that promise come true, Rio worked his ass off and got into the prestigious high school Mei attended. He finds her on the first day of the school itself, but before he can talk to her, a handsome playboy named Taka comes running to her. He's quite friendly with her, and seeing how another one of Mii's friends is being treated like a third wheel, Rio realizes that the bitch has forgotten about their promise. He just watches the three of them walk away with a heavy heart. Meanwhile, Mei, Taka, and the third wheel meet two siblings who are quite close to them. They are about to head to a cafe to celebrate the start of the new school year when suddenly two overlapping magic circles appear before their feet, teleporting them to different locations in the fantasy world. Rio and his girls watch the light pillars from a distance, while Mai finds herself in the middle of nowhere along with the siblings where they got kidnapped by the thugs. Rio reaches their location following Aisha's request and finds a green mist filling the area. He realizes some kind of spatial magic was used here, and then suddenly, he finds Mii's smartphone, which leaves him confused. In the meantime, the thugs put the siblings in a cart that is going to be shipped to Epstein Island, and their ugly boss, who has a 360-degree field of vision, takes Mii along with him so that he can pass her among his men like a joint. They try to resist, but the thugs don't hear any of their pleas. On top of that, they can't even understand their language and don't know where they will be taken. Luckily, Rio sees the smoke rising from their campsite and quickly arrive there. The lookouts alert the others to get ready for battle and put curtains around the cages to protect their products from harm. Rio asks the boss of thugs about the owner of the smartphone, but he replies that he didn't know anything about it. Rio doesn't want to pick a fight with them when he's in a hurry. Then suddenly, he hears the girl screaming for help. Rio is taken aback because she was speaking English and not the language of this world. He tells the leader of the thugs that the girl is the one he is looking for and asks him to hand her over. The thug tells him to mind his own business and then orders his men to kick him out by force. Rio realizes that the thugs here know the value of teamwork because they seem to be moving together, but that is not going to stop him. He gets ready to fight and easily dodges the first attack from the thugs. One man blasts him with magic attacks, and as Rio dodges them, he finds a second guy attacking him with a sword. He dodges him too and kicks him away, but more people come to attack him. Rio decides to stop pulling his punches and draws out his daggers. He runs straight towards the leader, quickly disposing off the thugs in the way. The magician hits him with a fireball, but Rio is unharmed and he throws his daggers at him. The man blocks them, but that was just a distraction, and Rio knocks him out with some solid kicks before drawing his knife and stabbing him in the chest. He then turns to the leader, who has literally pissed his pants, and as Rio orders him to release the kids, he immediately orders his men to do so. Rio finds the two siblings, who are surprised to see that he can understand their language. He asks them if there was anyone else with them, and they immediately point to the carriage where Mii is kept. The boss frantically searches for the key, but Rio simply walks to the door and breaks the lock with the help of the Force. However, as the door opens and he sees Mii there, he is flabbergasted and wonders how she can be here. Anyway, they walk away from danger, and I guess no one cares about the other kids who were in the carriages. Rio contacts Aisha and tells her to regroup with him as soon as she can. After that, Mii thanks him for saving them and asks him for his name. Rio wonders what to tell her and decides to go with the name from his previous life, Haruto. This shocks me, but the purple-haired girl Aki is even more shocked. Rio recognizes the name as that of Rio's little sister, whom he didn't get to meet after his parents' divorce. He is certain that she is his sister for sure, but still doesn't reveal his identity to her. After that, the brown-haired boy introduces himself as Masato, Aki's younger brother. Rio is shocked at this because he had no idea that he had another sibling, but then he realizes that his mother on Earth must have remarried. Anyway, he tells them that it will get dark soon, so they should find a safe spot nearby. Once they find an empty space, Rio uses his magic bracelets and brings out the portable house he had stored inside it. Mi and the two siblings are astonished to see this, and Rio tells them that it is more comfortable than it looks. Just then, Aishia and Celia also come flying there, adding to their surprise. Aishia immediately runs to Rio and then inquires about the 3 people he has found. He introduces them to her, with Rio acting as the interpreter. It is taking too long, so Aishia takes things in her hand and suddenly kisses Celia and Mi on the forehead, turning them a little bit gay. Because of that, they can suddenly understand each other. Aishia explains that since Rio knew both the languages, she was able to create a temporary pathway between the 2 girls so that they could understand each other. Rio is amazed, but then Aishia tells him that she is hungry. He quickly leaves everyone inside the house and tells the girls to try the bath while he prepares dinner for them. In the bath, Celia tells me about Rio and reveals that Aishia is his contracted spirit. Meanwhile, Masato learns from Rio that this is like a fantasy RPG world from their perspective, but the stakes are real here, so ending up a slave or dying isn't out of the question. Soon, the girls return from the bath and Rio is surprised when he sees Celia wearing a tracksuit. She explains that Aki lent it to her because she was not going to wear her wedding dress after a long day. Rio realizes that everyone needs some new clothes and says that they should buy them tomorrow. Mi says that she doesn't have any money and Rio says that she can pay him with other methods. Anyway, they go to have dinner where Rio learns about them being summoned to this world. He says that since he was reincarnated as another person, his experience won't be of much help to them, and there might not be a way for them to return home. Suddenly, Celia begins connecting the dots between the stories. She says that today they saw 6 pillars of light that must have brought more people to this world. She says that there is a prophecy about the return of the 6 wise gods in the 1000th year of the Holy Era calendar. Rio explains this to the Earth Dwellers in football terms, saying that there is a prophecy that in the 1000th year of the Holy Calendar, 6 warriors with divine weapons will descend on this world and lead humanity as the representatives of the 6 wise gods. He thinks that while the stories match, it is hard for Mi and others to be the heroes mentioned in the prophecy. Mi suddenly tells Rio that there were 2 more people with them when they were teleported here and asks if he knows anything about them. Rio says that they are probably in this world too, but he can't be sure. Mi is worried about them, thinking that she was rescued by Rio, but her friends may be in real danger. The mood gets gloomy, but then Aishia starts yawning because she has sat through too much yapping. She walks to Rio and grabs his hand, telling him that she is tired and they should go to bed. Everyone is shocked, and then suddenly, Aishia says that she used too much energy today right before she leans on him. Celia and Mi freak out, but Aishia tells them that she is just recharging her mana, and this is no big deal because she often sleeps with Rio. Rio tries to clear the misunderstanding with Celia, but she has already branded him a pervert. Rio somehow gets everyone back at the table and explains that Aishia has to draw mana from him to function. Celia understands that, but she is approved and thinks that it is a sin for Rio and Aishia to sleep together. Well, Aishia doesn't want her to bicker anymore about this, so she teleports next to Mi, saying that she will sleep with her instead. She says that even though it is not equal to Rio, Mai also has a great amount of mana, and she can recharge with her help. That solves Rio's problem, and after sending Mi and Aishia to one room, he shows another room to the siblings. After that, he takes Celia upstairs and gives her a room of her own, which is right next to his, but now this hypocrite wants to share a bed with Rio and get into his pants. She is not brave enough to say that, and Rio goes back alone to his room. He suddenly starts thinking how strange it is for Mi to come to this world. He wonders what would she think if he told her that he still has the memories of being Haruto, but then decides that it doesn't matter because he is not Haruto anymore. Suddenly, Celia comes knocking at his door and Rio lets her in. She apologizes for disturbing him, but says that there are some important things she wants to talk about. Rio serves her tea, and then Celia begins rapid-firing questions at him about how he met Aishia. But before that, she wants to know about Rio's past life, because it is the biggest mystery to her. Rio begins telling her that he remembers about his past life as Haruto, and the people they met today are from the same world as him. Rio asks Celia if she remembers the day she first found him in the slums, because it was the day his memories of the past life returned to him. Celia understands a lot about Rio now, and he assures her that despite everything, he is still the student and friend she has always known. Celia is happy to hear that and thanks Rio for rescuing her from the marriage. She is still worried about her father, so Rio suggests that she write him a letter to tell him that she is fine once they reach the next city. At the same time in the capital, the asshole Charles is talking with one of his close guests, who is actually the evil mastermind behind a lot of stuff. He tries to console Charles about his bride being stolen before the marriage, and the jerk drowns himself in liquor as he says that the night captain surely obliterated the criminal responsible for this. However, he is still shaken because he has no clue about where Celia went. The man then changes the topic about the summoning of the heroes, and one of them has been taken in by the kingdom. Charles says that too many things are happening right now, and on top of that, the rebel faction also has a hero with them thanks to the holy jewel with Princess Flora. In the rebel camp, another one of the heroes has been enjoying royal treatment from the nobles who have summoned them. His name is Hero as well, but ironically, he doesn't have the making of a hero. He was a normal high school student who rage read a lot of fantasy manga because he didn't think anything like that would happen to him. But then out of nowhere, a magic circle appeared under him, and he was teleported to this world. When he found himself lying in a garden with soldiers all around him, he freaked out, but then suddenly, Princess Flora and Duke Gustav, who was acting as her guardian, came to greet him. While Hero was initially shocked and confused, he quickly used the knowledge from reading cheap generic isekai mangas to realize what was happening. He was summoned into this world with a katana that looked like an edgy 14-year-old designed it. However, Hero decided to use it to his favor and started acting like a hero. Even now, he tries to boss around everyone by saying that they are calling him a hero, but they just kidnapped him and brought him here without his will. The princess apologizes as she says that she had to fulfill the prophecy to ensure the well-being of this world, and then Duke Gustav asks Hero to at least hear out the full story before making a decision. Meanwhile, the next morning, Rio and his group leave for their shopping trip. Aki and her brother are going to stay in the safety of the house, while the remaining 4 people are ready to visit the city next to them. Ishida carries Celia in her arms as she flies off, and then Rio turns to me saying that he will carry her. He picks her up and starts flying, and this bitch starts flirting with him by saying that she is not afraid of falling because she is with him. Soon, they reach the city, and Rio asks Celia to adopt a fake name because people might be out looking for her. He uses the magic ear pin to change his hair color, and gives a similar accessory to the girls so that they can perfect their disguise too. On the way, the girls see a huge line, and Rio tells them that it must be either for the stuffed buns or the pasta, and suggests buying it on their way back. He drops the girls for shopping at the supermarket-like guild he visited the last time, and goes off on his own for some other task. He tries finding information about Celia and the lights, but no one seems to know anything helpful. They return to their base in the evening, and after the kids try out the clothes bought for them, Rio reveals what he found out in his investigation. He could not find any information about Mi's friends, but says that it is confirmed news that the heroes have been summoned to this world. His guess is that Taka and the third wheel girl were summoned as heroes, while Mai and others just got dragged along as collateral damage. Aki says that if they are in this world, she would like to help in finding them, but Rio says that she is not ready for it. He says that before anything else, they must learn the language and common customs of this world, and Celia offers to help with that. Rio says that he will try to ask for advice from the elders in the spirit village as well. After that, it is time to start cooking, and Mi offers to help Rio in preparing Japanese-style dishes. She is quite frank with him, which makes Eki a bit suspicious because Mai apparently can't handle men well. Meanwhile, Celia is thinking that she should also learn to cook, otherwise Rio won't even consider her as wife material. Rio lets her stir the pot for her first lesson, and after that, they sit down to eat. The next day, Rio gets ready to leave for the spirit village to seek advice from the elders. Everyone gathers to wish him the best of luck, and Rio leaves Asia in charge of everything in his absence. With that, he summons the teleportation device from his magic storage and immediately teleports to the outside of the village. He doesn't even need to cover much distance when he sees Latifa standing in front of him. She excitedly runs to hug him, and then the other girls also come there to welcome Rio, saying that they knew it would be him when they felt a huge magic energy in the forest. Rio tells them that he has something urgent to discuss with the elders, and the girls say they will immediately inform them. Soon, Rio gets into a meeting with the 3 elders and tells them about the 6 pillars of light that summon a bunch of heroes from another world. The elders are curious about why he thinks they are from another world, and Rio tells them that it is because he is sheltering 3 of them in his house. Everyone is stunned to learn that, and then Rio says that he doesn't believe that the 3 people with him are heroes. However, there were 2 other people who came to this world along with them, and he believes that they may be among the 6 heroes. The elders are quite surprised and ask Rio how did he communicate with the people from the other world. He reveals the fact that he lived in the same world as them in his previous life, but requests the elders to not ask him anything about it right now. They'd accept their request, and then Rio makes another one, asking them to shelter his friends in the village while he tries to find a way to send them back to Earth. Along with them, he also wants the village elders to welcome Celia and explains her circumstances. The elders accept to let everyone stay in the village because they are Rio's friends, but on the condition that they will never mention the existence of this village to the outside world. Later, Rio and Latifa have a private chat in which she asks him about the people who were summoned here from their old world. She is jealous that Rio told them he was from Japan when it was meant to be their secret, but he tells her that she will always be the special one for him. He assures her that he has not told them that he remembers his memories from his past life, because that would complicate things. Latifah asks him what he means, and Rio tells her that his crush from the past life, as well as his estranged sister, are among the people he is sheltering. He doesn't want to reveal this to them because they are already coping with coming to this world. He asks Latifah to keep the details of his past life a secret from them, even though he will have to tell them eventually. Latifah can sense that he wants to tell them everything right away, but she still promises to keep it a secret. The next day, Rio is all set to leave the village and everyone comes to bid him farewell as usual. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Galark, where one of the heroes has been summoned, the blue-haired sales girl Lot, whom I don't even remember, is having tea with the king. Turns out that Lot is actually the governor of the city and the founder of the supermarket where she met Rio. She also runs an information network, which is why the king requests her help. He tells Lot that she might already be aware of the heroes who have been summoned to this world. She affirms, and then the king says that he plans to hold a grand festival to present the heroes to the people of his country. He also wants to invite the heroes of the neighboring countries despite their tense political relationships, and he asks Lot to deliver the invitations. She accepts the request, and then the king begins talking about how two of the heroes have weird names and they put their family name before their real name. Lot is delightfully surprised to hear that because the names sound Japanese, and she herself is a Japanese person who reincarnated into this world. The king thinks that she might be interested in meeting the hero of their country, and asks his daughter to escort her to the hero's room. As they reach the room, she finds that the third-wheel bitch named Setsuki is the hero. Back in the forest where Mei and others are staying, the evil mastermind starts hunting for them. He summons a bunch of zombie soldiers and directs them to find the person with the greatest amount of mana and bring them to him alive by sunset. Unaware of the danger that is heading towards them, Celia is patiently teaching Masato the language of this world. Meanwhile, Mai and Aki are in the kitchen where they belong. Mi keeps wondering when will Rio return because it has been 2 weeks since he left, but Aki gets pissed at this. She begins bitching and whining that she should be in school right now, but now she is here, holed up in this house in a world that she knows nothing about. She says that she wants to go home, but Mi tells her that it is no use getting anxious over it. She trusts that Rio will keep them safe and find a way back to Earth. Aki remarks that she seems to be into him a lot, which is surprising considering the fact that she is not good with guys. Mi says that Rio seems different to her, and also he introduced himself as Haruto, which made her have a soft corner for him from the get-go. Aki suddenly gets pissed at this and throws a tantrum. She hates her brother who didn't even come to see her in all those years and tells Mi not to insult Rio by comparing him to that loser. She quickly realizes that she overreacted and goes outside to cool her head. Mi follows her to calm her down when suddenly the zombie monsters find them. They enter the barrier that keeps the house invisible to outsiders and then begin doing the Naruto run towards the girls. Mai and Aki freak out, but luckily, Aisha comes there and blasts the zombies with her magic. She remembers that Rio left her in charge of everyone, and she is determined to keep them safe. Suddenly, one zombie attacks her from the side, and while she is distracted by it, another one charges at Mi and Aki. Thankfully, Celia comes out at the right time and protects them from the zombie attack. The two girls get ready to face the zombies, but then suddenly, Rio arrives there to save the day. He pushes the zombies away, and everyone is glad to see him. Rio apologizes for being late and then asks Aisha about the strange monsters. She tells him that they must definitely be monsters, and from her experience, she can say that the black one is tougher and stronger than the rest. Rio decides to deal with the black one and leaves the rest to Aisha. The black zombie begins to run away, but Rio intercepts it. The zombie attacks him, but his strikes are too straight and easy to dodge. Rio knocks it to the ground and then tries to see if it can speak, but that seems unlikely. However, just as he makes the final blow, the zombie tries thanking him for freeing him. It vanishes when Rio stabs it, leaving only a red crystal behind. In the meantime, Aisha has also dealt with the remaining zombies and they decide to head inside. Once inside, Eki apologizes fervently, saying that the zombies found them because she went outside. Mi says that it is her fault, but Rio literally doesn't care because the nice smell of the food is distracting him. Everyone starts getting ready to eat, and then Rio suddenly tells them that they are soon going to have a new home. On the other hand, other groups of zombies drag human soldiers and adventurers to the evil mastermind. He is pleased with the haul, but he could sense one group of zombies vanish. He thinks that they have been beaten, but that doesn't matter to him because he can always create new ones using the raw material he has just got. The next day, Rio teleports everyone outside the spirit village where Latifah and other girls are already waiting for them. The pervert Masato gets excited when he sees a group of cute furries, while Latifah runs to hug Rio. She is curious about the people he has brought along, and they are also interested in knowing more about the beast people. The other beast girls kneel before Aisha to welcome her, and Masato asks if Aisha is some sort of big shot around here. Raya reveals that the people in the village worship spirits who can take human form, and that shocks Mai and others because they were treating Aisha quite frankly till now. She tells them that it is fine because she doesn't like formalities. On the other hand, Latifah and Celia introduce themselves to each other, and then Celia gets straight to business and asks Latifah if she can touch her tail. She permits her, and Celia begins fondling her fuzzy tail. Latifah suddenly says that it tickles in Japanese, shocking Mai and others. She reveals that she is also reincarnated into this world just like Rio, and says that she has the memories of her past life. She offers to become their language teacher because she knows languages of both the worlds, but Rio is a bit concerned. Latifah tells him that there is no need to worry as she has told the elders and her friends everything. She wants to help others who came from Earth, and on top of that, she wants to be useful to Rio. Meanwhile, the rest of the furry girls introduce themselves to me and others, and then lead them to the village. As they enter the village, they notice the villagers hiding behind trees and houses to watch them. Aki asks if they are scared of them, and Rio explains that the villagers have almost no contact with humans. Just then, a bunny girl comes to me because she's fascinated by her uniform. Latifah acts as a translator for her, and then May tells the girl that she likes her ears. The girl runs to her mother's side, and soon more villagers come to talk with their guests. Soon after that, a welcome party is thrown for them, but before that, the village elders officially welcome everyone. They first greet Asia and then go to the humans from another world and Celia. The dwarf elder is quite curious about the otherworlders, but the other elders tell him to keep his curiosity under control. Just then, the spirit of the huge tree, Dryas, appears in front of them to see the new people who are going to stay in the village. Everyone is awed to see her, and once that is done, it is finally time to party. While me and others start eating, Rio stays behind to talk with the elders and Dryas. Aki and Masato are shocked to find that they have Japanese-style food here too, and Latifah says that she prepared it for them. Aki finds Latifah staring at Rio and says that her elder brother is quite loved and respected by everyone. Latifah proudly affirms, and Aki says that she is jealous of her. She wants to meet Taka, who is her stepbrother, and wonders how long do they have to wait before they can look for him. She then turns to Latifah and says that she would like to learn the language of this world, and she's happy to be her tutor. After that, they go to Rio's house in the village, and Latifah shows me and others their room. The furry girls tell them that they should enjoy the open-air bath before going to sleep, and Masato is really excited about that. However, he loses in stone, paper, scissors to his sister, and girls get to visit the bath first. As he is sulking about that later, he thinks that they would have won if Rio played the game in place of him. However, he is immediately proved wrong as Rio loses to him in a game of stone, paper, scissors. Moving on from that topic, Masato asks him how did he become so strong. Rio immediately thinks about his mom's killer and his desire for revenge, and tells the boy that there is something he must do, and he must become stronger for that. Masato says that he also wants to grow stronger to protect the girls, and Rio just smiles at this little simp. The next morning, as Celia is out on a morning walk, she finds Rio practicing his sword skills. They start talking in the shade of a tree, and Rio suddenly remembers that he promised her that they would send a letter to her dad. He tells Celia that they should do it now since all other things are resolved, but she tells him that he doesn't have to force himself. Rio doesn't get what she is saying, and she says that he is taking the responsibility of saving everyone, but she feels that he is hiding something from them. She says that she feels like a burden to him that is stopping him from achieving his true goal. She asks him not to worry about her and do what he wants, and Rio tells her that she is not a burden because he wanted to save her from the bottom of his heart. Celia thanks him and says that if he ever needs her help with anything, he should not hesitate. She is confident that she can help him, being the magician with the most mana in her kingdom. The next day, Rio, Asia, and Celia get ready to leave for the nearest city to deliver the letter, and also to find information about the heroes. Everyone is there to see them off, and Mia has prepared a huge basket of food for Rio to eat on the way. They keep yapping about a whole lot of nothing while holding the lunch basket, and then the furry girls tell them to get a room already. Masato promises to become stronger and protect the girls while Rio is away, but Aki is lost in some deep thoughts. With that, Rio and others fly off, and Latifah tells the others that they should start learning the language of this world immediately. Meanwhile, in the Redania territory, the blue-haired girl Lot visits Princess Flora and Duke Gustav to meet their summoned hero. She tells them about the plans of the King of Galark to throw a party for the summoned heroes and invites them all to join it. The Duke says that he would love to attend the party, but the final decision will belong to Hero. Hero, however, has fallen head over heels for Lot, and he can't refuse the invitation. However, he keeps up the act of being a stuck-up asshole and says that he can attend a party or two for the sake of world peace, but he makes sure that Lot is going to be at the party or his efforts are going to be wasted. On the other hand, Rio and the girls have reached Celia's family territory. She points out towards the mansion where she grew up and informs Rio that there is a secret passageway in the middle of the garden that leads to the main building. She thinks that they can sneak in through that passage and deliver the letter to her father, but there are a lot of guards stationed there. They descend to the garden and hide behind the bushes, but a guard spots them and begins approaching their location. Rio uses spirit magic to turn them invisible, and while the confused guard is looking around the bushes, they reach the hidden passage and enter it. As soon as Celia takes a magic lantern from the wall, a connected lamp on her father's desk starts glowing, alerting him of intruders in the passage. He heads to the secret passage as well, wondering who could enter it when only the members of the family know about it. In the meantime, Celia quickly places her letter on a table and then moves away from the room before her father finds her, even though she really wants to meet him and tell him everything personally. Her father finds the letter, and on reading it, he learns that Celia is doing well and she agreed to be kidnapped from her marriage. She apologizes for being a disobedient daughter and running away from her responsibilities and hopes that no danger falls on her family because of that. She tells her father that she will meet him again someday and tell him the entire story, but till then, she wants him to have faith in her. He realizes that Celia must be nearby, so he runs outside and begins calling her name. However, when the guards ask him if anything is wrong, he says that he was sleepwalking. He decides to keep Celia coming here a secret in hopes that she will come to see him again someday. Rio and others watch this from the sky, and he asks Celia if she is sure that she doesn't want to meet her dad. She tells him that this is fine as she wipes her tears and thanks Rio for giving her this chance. He promises that he will make it possible for her to meet him the next time they are here. With that, they decide to head to Rodania and learn about the hero there. Meanwhile, as Lot is returning to her city from Rodania in her giant flying ship, it suddenly tilts and staggers. Lot wonders what the hell is happening, and then suddenly her maids come running in, overwhelmed by panic. They tell her that a black dragon has appeared near them, and they are going to make an emergency landing in the nearest city. Soon their ship lands in the port city of Noix, and everyone comes out to see the dragon. The ship's captain tells Lot that fortunately the dragon did not notice them, but he still chose to land rather than take the risk of facing it. Lot thanks him for making the wise decision quickly, and then her assistant draws her attention to another flying ship that belongs to Duke Gustav. As she boards off from the ship, she runs into a random noble who governs this city, and the very next moment she hears the annoying voice of Hiro, who says that it is a pleasure to meet her again. She asks him what is he doing here because the party is still far away. Hiro says that Duke Gustav had some business here, and he had suggested that they should visit Lot's merchant guild as well, so he came along. However, they also spotted the black dragon near their ship and had to make an emergency landing. Hiro says that they need to find a way to deal with the dragon before any of them can reach their destination, so Gustav asks the random noble if he can give them a place to rest and come up with a strategy, and he immediately invites everyone to his mansion. Meanwhile, Rio and his girls reach the city of Rodania, which seems quite lively. Suddenly, Celia points out that Ishia is missing and Rio rushes to search for her. He finds her deep-throating some meat skewers and apologizes to the shopkeeper. He asks for the price of the skewer, but the shopkeeper tells him that the drunk guy passed over in the corner has already paid for the food. The shopkeeper tells Rio and Celia down on his tab as well, but they politely refuse. He tells them not to hesitate because the guys seem to have landed a solid job preparing for the hero's departure, and he earned a bit too much money. Rio is surprised to hear that the hero has left this city, and he asks the shopkeeper more about him. While the man doesn't know anything useful about the hero, he tells them that he was invited by the king of Galark to a party where other heroes will also be present. Rio and Celia look at each other, realizing that they need to change their destination as well. Back in the city of Noix, Lot and others sit down for a meeting. She explains that finding a dragon near a city is very bad news because normal people can't even hope to defeat it. She says that in the worst case scenario, they will have to evacuate everyone in the city before the dragon destroys it. The noble of the city says that he will start evacuating them as a precaution right away, and then Gustav starts wondering what are they going to do now. Suddenly, Hiro asks Lot what is she going to do next, and she replies that she is going to return to her city, because she must resume her duties as a governor quickly. She states that she will take the land route, but Hiro is opposed to that because a bunch of girls who are traveling without any guards are sure to get in danger. Lot assures him that her maids know how to fight, but he says that it is not enough. He suddenly volunteers to go with her, and the Duke's daughter tells him that it is not nice to push himself onto others. However, the Duke tells her to shut up when a man is speaking. Lot tells Hiro that she really doesn't need his help, and on top of that, she doesn't want the hero from another country to risk his life for her. Hiro suddenly starts acting tough, saying that it is not his style to escape to safety while pretty girls are in danger. Duke Gustav is also ready to support him in whatever decision he makes, and says that they will come along if Hiro decides to go with Lot. He tells them that they don't need to worry about anything as long as he is with them, and then summons his katana. He declares that it is called Excalibur and says that he came up with the name himself. Well, this is enough to make Lot realize that he is all bark and no bite, but she decides not to pry further as it can reveal her secret too. The next morning, Lot and her group are getting ready for their departure when the knight named Raymond, who is in charge of their security, comes to see them. He is shocked to see Lot's assistant Arya, because they used to know each other in the past. He says that he is sorry for her family that fell from power, but Arya says that she is doing well because Lot took her in. Just then, Gustav arrives there and tells Lot that Hiro is all set to leave, and they should depart now. Their convoy soon reaches a rough road in the middle of the forest, and while Lot and others are making small talk inside their carriage, they hear Arya's voice, telling everyone to stop because there are monsters nearby. The maids immediately pull down the iron shutters to protect the people inside the carriage, while Arya takes charge of the situation outside. The soldiers are confused because they don't see any monsters, but she tells them that they are approaching them in huge numbers from both sides. Suddenly, a huge horde of goblins arrive on either side of the road and start pelting the knights with stones. The maids use magic barriers to protect them, and then Raymond also takes command of his soldiers. However, more monsters come from other directions as well, and everyone starts getting overwhelmed. Aria tells them to stay calm as she instructs the maids to join her in combat. She tells the guards to act as the line of defense, and then goes ahead to face the army of monsters. She nukes them with a powerful magic spell, and then rushes ahead to slash the remaining ones with her sword. Meanwhile, the rest of the maids also get ready for battle and cover other fronts. However, the evil mastermind who orchestrated this attack to kill Lot and Flora is watching everything from top. He is impressed by the strength of Aria and other maids, but thinks that the knights are weaker compared to them, and that is his opening to attack. At the same time, Hiro is getting anxious in the carriage. He wonders what the hell is going on outside, and how is the fight dragging on for so long even with the huge number of knights. Flora is scared, so Lot holds her hand, and Hiro uses this chance to hold the hands of the blonde Loli, who is ready to risk everything for him. Suddenly, something hits the roof of their carriage, rattling it. Hiro says that he has had enough and summons his sword, saying that he will deal with all the monsters outside quickly. He kicks open the door and heads outside, still holding the Loli's hand. Lot tries to stop him, but it is no use, and she realizes that she must also go outside to ensure that this idiot doesn't get himself killed. She tells Flora to wait for her as she goes outside to check the situation. She activates her magic barrier, and then gets surprised to find a huge number of monsters. She then asks Flora to come out but stay close to her, and they come to Hiro and the Loli. Hiro is nervous and thinks that they will lose this fight, but Lot asks him to trust in the pros who know what they are doing. He starts bitching and moaning about how no one prepared him for this. He thought that living in a fantasy world would be easy with his cheat abilities, but it turns out to be too hard. Seeing him hopeless, Lot decides to take things in her own hand. She asks the Loli to take care of Flora while she goes to treat the wounded. She casts healing magic on the injured knights while Aria comes to brief her about the situation. She has taken care of the monsters up front, and now she is heading to the rear flank to help them. However, that was just what the evil mastermind wanted, and just as Aria goes to the rear, he descends in front of the convoy. Aria begins quickly defeating the monsters one by one and tells the knights to go to the sides because she can handle everything here. Then suddenly, they hear a loud and terrifying roar as a huge black minotaur arrives there. Everyone freaks out, and the Loli tells Lot that it is a legendary monster that was present in the war between demons and gods. Hiro thinks that they are cooked, but to his horror, another minotaur comes from the front. He trips on a rock and falls to the ground, trembling in fear. Aria tries to rush to their side to help them, but the monsters don't give her the chance, and the first minotaur attacks her as well. On the other side, the second minotaur sends the carriage flying with one hit and then reaches out to Flora. She is too terrified to move, so Lot saves her from the monster's attack. However, now they are both vulnerable, and the minotaur prepares to kill them with one blow. Then out of nowhere, someone flashes right past them and slashes the minotaur's arm. He then jumps high and kicks the minotaur's sword towards it, killing it. It is Ryo, who is disguising his appearance, but seeing this scene reminds Flora of the time he saved her from the minotaur in the forest. Ryo comes to their side, but then the other minotaur starts raging. He rushes to deal with it and clashes swords with the giant monster, sending it flying with a powerful wind spell. The monster returns to attack him, but Ryo dodges its heavy blow and then slashes him so fast that no one can even see him. The minotaur disappears, and the soldiers cheer on Ryo while the monsters are scared for their life now. Gustav, Lot, and others come to thank Ryo, but as he finds Flora staring at him, he fears that maybe she has recognized him. He is not wrong because Flora believes that this man in front of her is Ryo, even though he appears completely different. Lot thanks him for saving them and introduces herself as the governor of a nearby city. Ryo gives out his fake name Haruto, which comes as a shock to Flora. She still asks him if they have met somewhere before, but he refuses to remember anything like that. Gustav asks Ryo if he is a noble of some country, but he replies that he is just a traveler who loves swordsmanship, and he is not connected to any country. Gustav is surprised to hear this and says that a swordsman of his level will be welcome no matter where he goes. Just then, Lot's maids come there, and one of them immediately identifies Ryo as Haruto, but obviously, he doesn't remember every bitch he's ever met, so he asks who is she. The brown-haired girl tells him that she is Chloe, the one who helped him with shopping when he came to their supermarket a few days ago. He remembers her now, and Lot says that she never knew he was one of their customers. Just then, the useless asphalt hero comes there and pompously introduces himself as the hero. Ryo can tell that he is Japanese from his name and decides to act humble in front of this prick. Hiro is easily flattered and tells him that he was decent in the fight earlier. Ryo thanks him for the praise and then says that he feels a bit out of place and nervous in front of all the important people here. Lot says that he should not say such things when he defeated 2 minotaurs single-handedly, and that pricks Hiro's ego. He walks off and tells the 2 princesses to come with him, but Flora lingers around Ryo, trying to clear her suspicions. However, when Hiro calls her again, she leaves, and now Ryo is sure that she has identified him. He decides to ignore her because his harem is already getting too big for him to handle and decides to focus on Lot because she has actual power and money unlike the princess. He offers to help her by fixing their destroyed carriage, and she agrees. She sends her assistant Aria to check up on other things in the meantime, and Rio realizes that this is the person Celia was talking about just now. A few minutes earlier, when he was flying over the forest with Celia and Asia, they spotted the battle going on below. Celia immediately recognized Aria, who was her friend in the academy, and soon, the Minotaurs arrived on the battlefield. Rio just told Asia to take Celia somewhere safe as he descended to save everyone, and that brings him to the present where he cuts off the roof of the carriage to turn it into a convertible. Lot says that she is impressed, and he replies that it is thanks to his sword, which is an ancient artifact, but it was just his spirit arts in reality. As he finishes repairing the carriage, a blonde maid comes there with juice for him, and very clearly shows that she is down for whatever later today. Rio is taken aback, but only tells Lot that she's got an interesting band of maids. After that, Hiro goes to the Minotaur's sword that is stuck in the middle of the road and uses his incredible strength to just yeet it away. Everyone, including Rio, is impressed, and Hiro gives him a smug and condescending smile as he passes him by. After that, Rio joins the nobles in their carriage, with Lot still being grateful to him, and Hiro trying to be passive-aggressive during their entire journey. On the other hand, Mai, Aki, and Masato are learning the language of this world from Latifa. Once the class is over, Masato's friends come to invite him for fishing, and he immediately leaves, neglecting the training of spirit arts. Latifa tells the girls not to mind Masato and focus well on their own training. The green-haired elf girl teaches them the basics of spirit art, and Mii proves to be much better than Aki at it. Aki is disheartened because of this and starts wondering if she doesn't have any talent at all. She goes for a stroll to relax herself and finds two kids playing house near the altar. That suddenly takes her down the memory lane when she used to play house with her brother Haruto and Mii. They were really happy, but that was a time before their parents got divorced, and soon, Haruto and her dad left. Aki cried as she asked him to stop, reminding him that he had promised to stay with her forever, but her brother could only apologize as he went away. Aki is snapped out of those thoughts when Latifa comes there after picking vegetables for dinner, and they return home. As the food is set on the table, Aki complains that Masato is still not home. She says that it was better when they were new in the village and he was too anxious to do anything. She then suddenly asks Latifa how was it for her and Rio when they first came here, and the green-haired elf hides her face in embarrassment and guilt. Latifa explains how the girls attacked Rio, thinking that he was trying to kidnap her, but once they learned the truth, they immediately asked for forgiveness. The girls suddenly remember that when Rio was unconscious, he kept crying and calling out Mii's name. Both Mii and Aki are taken aback to hear this, and while Mii is a bit happy, Aki is clearly upset. The mood seems tense, but luckily, Masato returns home just then with a giant fish he caught. Everyone forgets about the conversation that was happening just now, and then the fish slips from Masato's hands, causing panic and chaos. Later, as Mii is practicing spirit magic in her room, the girls go to her room to tell her something concerning about Aki. Meanwhile, Aki and Latifa are enjoying the open air bath. Aki asks Latifa more about her journey with Rio, and she tells him that she was a slave and an assassin, that long story short, Rio freed her and brought her to this village so that she could live happily. Aki apologizes for bringing up such a sensitive topic, but Latifa says that it is all good, because now she thinks that all the hardships she faced in this life brought him to Rio. That statement resonates with Aki, who says that she was betrayed by her brother whom she loved and trusted in the childhood. However, when her mother remarried, she got an older brother Taka and a younger brother Masato. She says that Taka was the kind and warm elder brother she always wanted, and he always helped her. That is why she also wanted to help find him quickly, but it seems to be very hard since she can't even learn spirit arts properly. Latifa tells her that she might not be able to help her out in any way, but still asks her to come to her in case she needs someone to listen to her troubles. The next morning, Aki goes outside the house early in the morning to practice, and the rest of the girls decide to do something special for her. As usual, she's unable to make any progress with her spirit arts, but when she returns home, she finds a sweet smell coming from inside. The elf bro welcomes her, and Aki is surprised to find her wearing Mii's school uniform. She asks why is she wearing this, and the elf girl replies that she wanted to wear special clothes to present her with a special gift. Suddenly, Mei comes there with a freshly baked apple pie, which is her favorite. Aki is happy to see it, but asks what is the special occasion. The girls tell her that this is their way to cheer on her while she devotes herself to practice, and she gets emotional as she thanks them. Far away from them, in the neighboring Empire of Proxia, Emperor Nidal is watching the capital through the rain. He looks quite bored, and just then the adventurer named Lucius, who killed Rio's mom, walks into his room, remarking that he looks like he is itching to start a war. He begins talking about the trouble brewing in the kingdoms nearby, and Nidal tells him that he has sent an envoy to ensure diplomatic relations while he prepares his army. Just then, the envoy comes to the room, and it is none other than the evil mastermind. He tells Lucius that he was looking for him because he needs his help. He explains that it is finally the time to put their plan in motion. But an unexpected threat has surfaced, and until they deal with it, they can't do anything. The evil mastermind says that their enemy is strong enough to one-shot minotaurs and they need someone stronger to deal with him. Lucius gladly agrees to take the job, but the mastermind tells him that he is not going to fight directly, but focus on kidnapping Princess Flora first. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and watch the video on your screen next.